Intelligence is a slippery concept. Success is another one. What qualifies in a classroom or with young kids? Researchers are trying to figure that out right now. They want to help create the most beneficial program there is possible, roll it out as many places as possible. So in a state like Tennessee, where pre-K is widely available, Vanderbilt researchers there have been analyzing the public program. It's called TNVPK, which we told you a little bit earlier. It showed higher scores among students while they were there, but they kind of dribbled off at the end. In the conclusion of that paper, the authors wrote this, quote, "The structural support exists in the state to continue to explore pre-K as a means for preparing children for success in school. But we need to think carefully about what the next steps should be." What should those be? Should pre-K be universal? Tennessee has a licensed teacher in each of those classrooms. Is that enough? I spoke with Dale Farran. She's a professor of psychology and development at Vanderbilt, and she co-authored this landmark study assessing preschool and its true benefits. Could you give me your big takeaways of, I guess, the strongest points and maybe the weak points of pre-K as we know it today, universally?
Pre-K programs that are state funded are moving a lot toward being located in public schools and elementary schools. And so now I think part of the dilemma we face is, where does pre-K fit? Is it more like what we would do for children who are younger than kindergarten? Or is it now a new grade level in the K-12 system?
For instance, I went to Mother's Day out at First Baptist Church of Blue Springs every other week on, like Thursday afternoon, and I got to kindergarten, had never had pre-K. So to me, that was never in my mindset of like everybody has to go. But today, it seems like more people are thinking, yes, this is a necessity.
Well, you're raising a lot of good questions, and one of those is the pressure that all parents are feeling now, that kindergarten is a lot more demanding, and that they must get their children ready for kindergarten. And many people perceive that as, well, the way to get them ready is to put them in a pre-K program that makes certain demands of them. Even the more universally available you make them, they're still voluntary, so parents don't have to send their children there. In fact, parents don't have to send their children to kindergarten. Most states still don't require compulsory education until children are 7.
I've always heard all education is good education. It didn't seem like there was such a giant payoff for some of these kids, though.
So we found that by the end of 3rd grade, children who had been in a pre-K program were actually achieving less well than children who had not been in pre-K. So some got in and some didn't. And those who didn't do so well in the 4-year-old period. The kids who've been in pre-K did look better going into kindergarten. But by the end of kindergarten, there wasn't any difference between them.
Many times you talk about home life, and home life is certainly important, but that kind of confounded me when I read this about home life and its role in education and achievement.
So in our study, 60% of those children who didn't get into pre-K actually stayed home because there weren't any other programs for them in the counties in which they existed that their families could choose. And those children caught up. As soon as they hit formal education in kindergarten, they caught up. And so we can't just argue that just because your family doesn't earn a lot of money, your home life is going to be negative for you.
Or if you're a parent who doesn't have your choice, do you think that these children are going to get the education they need early on that's going to set them up for success?
I think the most important thing that a parent needs to look at is the negativity of the classroom in which they're placing their children. And we see a lot of what we call behavior disapproval, where children are being told that what they're doing is wrong and they need to sit down and they need to behave differently and they need to make better choices. And I don't think that sets those children up well for success long term. And so if I were a parent, I would be looking for warmth and acceptance, and just what you talked about in terms of that recognition of different aptitudes. Whatever program you choose, most of it's going to be determined by the teacher. And so having a connection with that teacher, making sure that teacher loves your child the way you love your child is really important.